Well, the liberal meltdown is real and can be seen across the world right now, internationally. Here's just a taste of some of the liberals melting down on social media.
How did we get here? How did we get here? What in the Alice in Wonderland nightmares is going on right now?
All I can say is how fucking dare you?
If you voted for that man, if you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you live in one of the states that it was, close, or if you didn't vote, fuck you.
Senate race. It's not going to happen. Republican Kevin
Go Kamala.
will be returning to the Senate.
I chose family. I chose women. I chose America. I love you.
How the fuck is this still happening? All I've ever known politically is hatred.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done with all of this.
And the same can be said to our friends in the North, in Canada. Liberals posting on social media, losing their minds that the end of the world is coming now that President Trump has been reelected in the United States. So let's go to Canada. I want to get some international perspective on what has happened in the United States. To our friends from the North, great journalist David Clayton, who writes at the Post Millennial and has a great YouTube channel, Clayton's Right, up there in Ottawa, Canada. So, David, just at a high level, how is the Canadian liberal media responding to Trump's election and just Canadians writ large?
The liberal media, the mainstream media, is reacting exactly as you might expect. Panic. This is catastrophic. We have most of our columnists lining up saying that this is going to be one of the worst events in world history, is to see Donald Trump reelected. And interestingly enough, they're using exactly the same language as you see from the Democratic Party, as you saw during that whole campaign, that Donald Trump is a fascist. Donald Trump will be a dictator from day one. Donald Trump was going to put Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad. All of these falsehoods, all of these complete misrepresentations about what Donald Trump is about. You said it well the other day, Clayton, when you said the mainstream media is either dead or dying. And that's exactly what's happening in Canada. These mainstream journalists, of which I used to be one, just can't understand why Americans voted for Donald Trump again. They can't understand why there's such appeal for Donald Trump amongst working class Americans, amongst middle class Americans, amongst Americans who want an end to foreign wars, among Americans who want an end to runaway inflation, who want law and order on the streets again and not illegals flowing across the border in the tens of millions. They don't get it, Clayton. They just don't understand this. And there must be some other reason. And of course, we had a Democratic strategist on CBC News on election night, the same Democratic strategist who proclaimed Donald Trump believes in eugenics and he's no better than Adolf Hitler. So she comes to Canada to spew that nonsense. And of course, the CBC crowd just loves that. How do most average Canadians feel? I don't believe the polls suggesting up to 60% of Canadians wanted Kamala Harris to win this election. What's not being mentioned is so many people are saying, oh my God, Trump is going to impose tariffs on Canada. What's the first thing Joe Biden did as president on Inauguration Day? Issue all of these executive orders destroying Donald Trump's immigration policy, but also relevant to Canada. He shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. That was one of the first things he did, destroying thousands of Canadian jobs. I haven't heard a single person in Canada even reference that yet. So maybe I'm saying this for the first time. I think one of the first things Donald Trump will do as president, because he's an energy independent president, will be to reinitiate the Keystone XL pipeline and giving back thousands of jobs to Canadians and Americans in what was a fantastic energy project. So all of this nonsense about storm clouds on the horizon, people are not thinking, those people who say that anyway.
No, I think the energy revolution is coming, and I think the United States and Canada are going to have a very fruitful future in the energy relationship. Everything from uranium to gold mining to oil to natural gas. It's going to be, I think we're going to see a revolution in energy policy over the next few years between the United States and Canada. What's interesting, though, I think for a lot of these liberals, and I don't say this derisively, but I really believe that they're just talking into an echo chamber. So they don't want to be on X. They'd rather be on Threads. I mean, who's using Threads? They don't want to hear any sort of dissenting voice. So they just want to talk amongst themselves. They don't want to be educated on how the United States actually works or could be improved upon. And so they're crying on social media. They're so upset on social media. I just hope that there's some sort of soul reflection point now where these liberals sit back and they say, wait a second, maybe I should just educate myself. Is this going to be as bad as I think it's going to be? He's going to round people up, throw them in prisons. America is going to return to some sort of medieval dark age. Or are we also just for Canadians who've seen skyrocketing prices for housing and inflation and prices for food and all of the things that make Canada in many ways unlivable for young people. The kids who want to go to school in Vancouver, how are they going to afford to actually live in Vancouver? You can't. It's impossible. The prices have skyrocketed. So maybe there will be a point of self-reflection for liberals in Canada. Take a step back from this and say, wait a second, these policies, the Joe Biden policies, the Justin Trudeau policies that have gotten us here, maybe aren't the best policies for Canadians. Do you think that there's going to be a point of self-reflection now in Canada or no?
Actually, I do, because I think people are willing to invite some positive change. I think there's room for optimism. I don't often say that, Clayton, but I listened to Kamala Harris's concession speech yesterday, and I was thinking, my God, don't incite riots. Don't incite this backlash. And I thought it was a relatively responsible speech coming from Kamala Harris. And I think this was a sign that maybe people are going to work together to bring back some prosperity. I think this is a realizable objective. I had a comment on my show yesterday, my broadcast yesterday, somebody saying happy days are here again. And I think maybe that's where we should be going. We haven't heard that since Roosevelt was president or Reagan was president. But at least maybe people are thinking, this is an opportunity. Donald Trump represents an opportunity. That's certainly what I've been telling people, is that we're not just getting Donald Trump. We're getting people like Elon Musk involved in government. We're getting people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. involved in Canada in politics. This could be a substantial opportunity with all of this talent getting involved and invoking change and making things better. And I think that's an opportunity. You see nothing but absolute fear on the faces of Justin Trudeau and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. They don't know what to make of this. They were expecting a Kamala Harris victory. And I tell you one thing they are concerned about: what happens to all of these people who are going to be deported from the United States? And I believe Trump will follow through on that promise. J.D. Vance has talked about 1 million deportations a year. Are they going to go north? And if so, the Trudeau government is going to have an immigration policy that is on par with the United States. And I think this might be what happens here, Clayton. Not that Trudeau thinks he's going to go it alone. Not that he thinks he can ever go it alone without the United States. He can't. Canada can't do that. But he can amend his policies in accordance with what's happening in the United States, however long he survives. And I think his days are still very limited. But I do think there has to be some recognition that the immigration policy has to be fixed in Canada like it is going to be fixed in the United States. We cannot have an open border in Canada because we're looking at all of these deportations that could conceivably go north after that takes place.
Looking at the county by county maps this morning, and it was an absolute landslide for President Trump across all demographic groups. People in their 40s voting overwhelmingly, Generation X people who have children, it's very easy to be selfish, to be like a selfish liberal when you're in your 20s, when you don't have any children to take care of, and it's all about navel gazing, it's all about me. But when you have children to take care of, suddenly you care more about safety. You care about your borders being wide open. You care about violence in your schools. You care about mental illness from people who have a mental illness and they're shooting up schools. Like, those are the things you may not care about in your 20s, but when you have children, you absolutely start caring about that at a level that you've never seen before. So I think when I looked at these county by county maps today, and I see just an absolute red wave across all demographic groups, from Latinos, Jews, Muslims, all voting for Trump. It was a total repudiation of liberal policies in the United States. And I find it very hard to believe, David, that is just divided right there at the border between the United States and Canada. Do you believe a red wave is going to be coming to Canada during this next election? Do you think Pierre Poilievre will be the next Prime Minister of Canada?
Well, I do. And I encourage Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party to look on this as an opportunity, as a positive source for the next election. And don't listen to these detractors who say Donald Trump's not popular amongst Canadians. Use this as an example of opportunity. And that's what he needs to do, because traditionally the Conservative Party has been afraid to embrace Donald Trump. They've been afraid to embrace that kind of change. They can't do this time, because this is an opportunity for the entire continent to renew itself. There's no question. Donald Trump's not just about getting us back on a fiscally responsible path, bringing back prosperity. This was, as I said in a Human Events column just before the election, this was a choice between Donald Trump and the end of America. If things had have continued the way they were under the Biden-Harris administration, it would have been absolutely catastrophic for the future of America. Donald Trump is offering a solution here, not just to close the border to illegal immigration, to offer a fiscal policy that brings prosperity, but it's free speech that matters to me the most. This is a president who will care about free speech. He has said that repeatedly with people like Elon Musk. I think that is the opportunity that Canada has to look at as well. And Pierre Poilievre, he's an intelligent man, and he's cautious, but I think he will look at this in terms of how it can best benefit Canadians. And I think he'll be the first one to say, hey, yes, the Keystone XL, Biden canceled that. Trump will probably re-engage with that. Very, very likely. Freedom of speech, all of these things that Trump has been fighting for. This is good news for Canada. Not to get distracted by the craziness about Trump being some kind of fascist or some kind of dictator. This is all projection from a Democratic Party that went after Donald Trump for the last 4 years with lawfare and with judicial persecution. And that's all that this is about. I think Poilievre is a very happy camper right now over the results of this election. He hasn't quite said it that way yet, but I think he's getting there.
Yeah, I think there's a quiet movement. Maybe Canadians are maybe more reserved in how they feel about Trump, and they're not you see all these videos in America where husbands just didn't tell their wives they were voting for Trump, and now these liberal women are freaking out, and so I think we're going to see something big happening in Canada over the next few months. David Creighton, unbelievable moment there. Great to have your perspective from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us, David. As always, great to see you.
Thank you so much, Clayton.
Cyber criminals targeting people and businesses by exploiting vulnerabilities in everyday tools that we use, like email, social media messengers, free cloud storage, as well as weak passwords. In fact, in the last couple of months, there have been two major breaches that probably affected you. There was the breach at AT&T, which exposed all of those text message logs, and it affected every AT&T customer. Also, what about the National Public Data breach for Social Security numbers? Yeah, the Social Security Administration admitted that. So that's where the people at Bunker are helping you. It's an affordable, all-in-one app protecting you against identity theft, cybercrime, and surveillance. And guess what? You can get your Bunker application for $12 annually. That's right. Why pay several different apps when you can get yourself for $12 annually protected with Bunker? Right now, you can use the code Redacted to get your first year for free. Just go to bunker.life and use the code Redacted. You can download it on the iOS App Store or on the Google Play Store, and you get, just by using that code Redacted, you get your first year for free. So our thanks to them for supporting the show.